The final issue is that of assessments, of testing. And the reality is it does depend. It depends on the format, depends on the layout, particularly depends on what's being measured. So the most vulnerable of assessments are knowledge assessments, skills, hard skills-based assessments, coding, software packages, things where there are correct answers. Okay, anything where there's an objectively correct answer based on knowledge, AI is going to be particularly effective. The answer is out there, like how to do like a VLOOKUP in Excel or how to code something in Python. It's going to be a lot better at that than any human being. And so it will get the answer very quickly, very efficiently, with a very high degree of accuracy. So you need to very strongly consider whether or not sort of hard skills assessments are worth doing in the workplace, at least remotely, where they're free to use, AI-based cheating. Publishers and providers do their best to try and minimize it, like prevent print screening, prevent copying and pasting and things of that nature. But there's very little you can do if they just use a phone to take a picture and then get the answer. It is a vulnerable assessment format. When it comes to ability tests, on the other hand, as of now, AI isn't great. You can lock in low to moderate scores. It's not as good as the average person, but that's still a concern. You might be able to get 20th, 30th percentile, something like that, on a verbal and numerical reasoning test, which is still really scary from an assessment provider's perspective, considering last year there was no chance of that. In the year before, it was unfathomable that that would be an option. And naturally, a year, 2 years from now, that's almost certainly likely to creep up. But consequently, as long as you are being relatively selective, which we always advise that you should be, particularly when it comes to, say, emerging talent, where you could have 10,000 applicants and you're going to interview 100 of them, that's basically, there's no threat there whatsoever, because you're going to have to get the 80, 90th plus percentile in order to make it through, and there's no way it can do that. At this current level, it is unable to match or certainly not exceed that of the average person. So that's a key consideration. Now, of course, in the future, and certainly in the present, if you're looking to address this, but moving forward, we see things moving in this direction, gamified ability tests, those which employ game mechanics to speed up the assessment, to make it more cognitively complex. That is a real moat around this issue. At Test Partnership, our main recommendation, especially for the future, is you do want to move towards gamified assessments if you can. It is a powerful protection against AI-based cheating. Print screens do not convey what needs to be done in a game. It's too complex. Game mechanics allow things to move around. It's much more quick fire, as well as it's often done on a mobile device, which is much harder to use in a sort of AI cheating setting. We see things moving in that direction rapidly, particularly when it comes to graduates, apprentices, interns, emerging talent, and early careers. It's a very, very obvious fit generationally. People are very confident with that sort of format. Mobile games, devices, app-based, as opposed to more traditional PC, desktop, laptop-based. It is how Gen Z predominantly use the internet. So we find those populations are very, very keen to do this assessment format. They much prefer it. It's more engaging, it's more in line with their expectations, and it's much, much safer from a cheating perspective. For those still using traditional assessments, I am of the opinion that right now you're okay to do so as long as you're being relatively selective. Because, if you have a high pass mark and you try to cheat with AI, of course you guarantee a fail, and then the trash takes itself out, so it solves its own problem. But I cannot speak for next year, or the year after that, or the year after that. So it's something you should always keep in mind. And indeed, for people who are still doing those assessments, we do what we can to stop people. We stop people from taking print screens, we can stop people from right-clicking and copying content. We do what we can to minimize and make it more inconvenient to do this sort of cheating. But it is, of course, temporary. Eventually it will get easier, it will get more effective. At some point, we very strongly recommend considering gamified assessments, which are much, much safer and have this moat built around it. I think gamified assessments are very much the future. I think that's how assessments are going to be done from next year, almost exclusively. And you should definitely take the time while you have the time to evaluate and plan and think about how those could be incorporated.